Hi, this is Spanish Conversation for Beginners. Welcome to the intro video. This course is going to focus on four things. The first thing is conversation. Conversation is everyday, normal, practical conversations that you might want to have in Spanish. And it's a good way to begin to learn the structure of the language, the grammar, and the vocab of the language, because it's practical first. Okay, so instead of a lot of books or apps or methods where you have to learn a whole bunch first and then hope that you can get to use it, or the dialogues are kind of really specific or maybe not so relevant. We're going to try to put relevant things up front, and from there we'll learn the structure. Structure is the grammar, the patterns, the verbs, and so on and so forth. Vocabulary is the third thing that it focuses on. And then importantly, very importantly, if not most importantly, language learning strategy. Strategies for learning language better. Another way to think of conversation is topics and situations that you might be in that you want to use the language, right? So this is everything from introducing yourself and talking about who you are and asking, and maybe asking where's the bathroom and so on and so forth. Okay, we'll get into it. Structure is verbs or grammar. Often when people say grammar, what they mean is verbs. And then vocabulary is everything other than the verb. So your adverbs, your nouns, adjectives, so on and so forth. Language learning strategy is going to help you become a better language learner, or help you to learn to teach yourself so you don't have to rely on other teachers or apps and books. A point about language learning strategy. Most methods teach the rules slowly, okay? So if you think about traditional high school Spanish class, for example, it might take all 4 years or up into AP Advanced Spanish before you get all of the grammar. Like you've got present tense year 1 or 6 months, or year 2 or semester 2, 3, 4, you've got past tense, and then later you get future tense, and then in AP you get subjunctive mood, and it takes all that time to learn the entire scope of the rules of the game, which is the grammar of the language. A metaphor that I like to use for this is pretend you're learning to play chess, and your chess teacher just told you that it's going to take 2 years to learn how all the pieces move. You'd be like, no, I'm never going to get to play the game. I can't just speak in present tense. I need to speak in present tense and past tense and future tense, right? So I need to use my rook and my knight and my bishop, and I can't just at this rate I'll never be able to play. Okay, so the method that we're going to take, you and me, in this course is try to give you a big picture map of the process, big picture map of the grammar of the language, and the most important topics and situations and vocabulary and expressions and everything else. Okay, what will you need? What do you need right now? You should have a blank notebook. It's going to be super simple. Just have a blank notebook right now, please. And this notebook is a dedicated notebook to Spanish, and so nothing else goes in here. It's just for us. And most importantly, people to practice with. These are the people that you're actually learning Spanish for, to communicate with. This is your significant other whose family is from, a Spanish-speaking country, or these are the people at work that you want to better be able to. These are the clients coming in from Guatemala, or just your neighbor or friends, or online partners that you are speaking with in order to practice Spanish. But you need both of these things, a notebook and people that you're actually speaking Spanish with. I want to talk about the verb timeline now. This is one of the tools from part of the strategy and helps us with structure. We'll see much more of this, but verbs go on a timeline: past, present, future. To give you an example, hablo means I speak. It's your first lesson if you like. Hablo means I speak. Say that with me. Push pause if you want and say hablo. In fact, the B even kind of sounds like a V, as in Victor. Hablo, nice and soft. Hablo, hablo, hablo. You can't say it too much. Push pause and say hablo. Hablo means I speak. That's the verb. Verb is the starting point. from the verb, you can say infinite things. It's like branches that grow. You could say, I speak English, I speak Spanish, I speak this, I speak that, I speak a little this, I speak a little. Verb is the seed. Let's see what we have. Estudio, another verb. Estudio. Pause and say that with me. Estudio. Estudio means I study. So you can say I study Spanish, I study French, I study math, I study whatever. When you say estudio, don't say estudio. Say estudio, like the, like Thee. Estudio. Make that D soft, just like we made the B soft like Victor. Make the D soft like the. Estudio. Let's see what else we have. Okay, here we go. Estudio español, right? I study Spanish. How do you say I study Spanish? Push pause and say I study Spanish in Spanish. Estudio español. Soft D. Estudio español. Okay, if you study Spanish, then push pause and say I study Spanish in Spanish. Estudio español. If you speak Spanish, you can say what? Hablo español. See what comes next, okay? This is an example of giving you more up front, okay? Rather than waiting 6 months to get the past tense, why not survey more of the grammar up front? So, hablo, in the present tense, I speak, ends with the letter O. As you can see, I've put it in green. Same with estudio. That's part of what makes the present tense in Spanish. If you change hablo to hablé, with the emphasis on hablé, like café, coffee, café, hablé, changing that O to the letter E, that accent mark, that's the past tense. So how do you say I spoke Spanish, right? What language did you speak today? I spoke Spanish. You'd say hablé español. Then you can let it all blend together. If these are your first words in Spanish, awesome. These are some of the best first words you could have in Spanish. It teaches you so much. It's not just this. It's also a grammar lesson and a conversation lesson. Okay, so I spoke Spanish. Hablé español. Hablé español. What language did you speak? Hablé español. So, wait, let me see what's next. Okay, so how do you think you say I studied? Really do this. Take out that blank notebook. Just write it down. You should be thinking I'm going to change the O to the letter E with an accent mark. Same pattern. So I studied Spanish. Estudié. Estudié. Soft D. Estudié. Estudié. Estudié español. So you should be repeating this out loud. There's no such thing as repeating something too many times. Start building that muscle memory right now. What did you do today? Did you study Spanish? If so, which you did. If so, say, sí, estudié español. What did you do today? Estudié español. Did you speak Spanish? Say, hablé español. Hablé español. At any point in time, you can pause the video, take out that blank notebook, and on the next available line, just practice writing. And when you practice writing, practice actually expressing thoughts. We're not just trying to see how much you can remember. You're not trying to remember words. You're trying to express thoughts. So I really, really want to know, what language or languages did you speak today? Write it down. Did you speak Spanish? Did you study Spanish? Okay, so any point in time, push pause and just heartfelt, truly practice writing. Let's see what we have. Today is hoy. Hoy. Silent H, right? Hoy. How would you say I spoke Spanish today? I spoke Spanish today. Push pause. Write that down, please, for real. And speak it out loud too. I spoke Spanish today. Hablé español hoy. Hablé español hoy. Hablé español hoy. How do you say I studied Spanish today? Estudié español hoy. No? More quickly and sort of naturally. Estudié español hoy. Estudié español hoy. It all blends together. All right, let's see what we have next. I think future, voy a hablar. Voy a hablar. Here the V kind of sounds like a B. Voy a hablar, I'm going to speak. Voy means I'm going. A means to. Hablar, speak. So voy a hablar, voy a hablar. Right? That's your future tense, okay? Knowing that, how do you think you say I'm going to study? Right? What's the difference? We need voy a estudi, right? So take a second, write this down. I'm going to study. Voy a estudiar. So how would you say I'm going to study Spanish today? I'm going to study Spanish today. Of course, it's voy a estudiar español hoy. How about I'm going to speak Spanish today? Voy a hablar español hoy. Okay? So as you can see, we have planted 6 verbs, right? Study and speak in the past, present, and future. Okay, so we've planted these 6 verbs, and then the sentences start growing out around it. This is one of the main things about the approach that we're going to take throughout this course. It's that once you plant a seed, virtually infinite possibilities grow out of that seed, right? If you gave me any verb, I gave you any verb in any language, right? Take the verb I like. You could go forever. I have this, I have that, I want this, I want that. Okay, so verbs are the seeds of vocabulary, and we'll present them on a timeline. This is going to be a major part of the structure, the focus on the structure that we're going to have throughout this course. And by focusing on the structure, it creates the conversation, right? We could have actual conversations just with the words that are on this screen right now, right? I could say, what are you going to do? What language are you going to speak today? What are you going to study today? What did you, and so on and so forth. Okay, so structure is the key to conversation, as you can see here, all right? Some phases throughout the 5-hour course that we're going to do here. We're focusing on core topics, right? So topics that are important to be able to express very close to yourselves. The 4 main examples of core topics are yourself, home, where you're from, where you live, family, friends, so on. Work, what you do for work or study or want to do or plan to do or whatever it may be. And then fun, what you enjoy doing. So these 4 core topics are important because I see them as like a microcosm of life, like the 4 corners of life, right? It's you, it's your home and your family, it's where you go and what you do for work and then what you do for fun. It's like the 4 corners of life. Core verbs are be, have, go, do, right? So you want to be able to say I am this, are you, da da da, right? Planting those verbs. Everything and everyone that you have family, friends, have a house, car, whatever it is, where you go, where you went last weekend, where you're going right now, where you're going to go tomorrow, and everything that you do, right? Everything that you did, everything that you're doing, and everything that you're going to do, okay? Which brings us to 3 very, very, very important sort of secret questions here that unlock both the grammar and the conversation of any language. It's these 3 questions. What did you do yesterday, last night, last weekend? What are you doing right now? And what are you going to do later? So all 3 of these questions are super practical. I mean, you could call a friend or text message or just be speaking and ask hey, what'd you do last night? It's very practical, a real conversation. But it also represents the core grammar of a language, which is past, present, future, right? If I ask you, what did you do? You're going to need to draw from past tense verbs. I went here, I did this, I met with her and did that, and so on and so forth. And, what are you doing right now? You need the present continuous. I'm doing, I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm talking. What are you going to do? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right? So you'd go back to the verb timeline. So what are you going to do? Voy a, so on and so forth. Okay, those 3 phrases, and there's the Verb Timeline, giving you an example there. Okay, so we'll get to that. This is incredibly important. It's building your routine. Okay, so building our routine is going to be like this. Okay, we're going to learn the core topics, learn to say some things we want to say. So you can go right out and do that. The core structure is the verbs, and the vocabulary, the patterns, the grammar, the past, present, future. Okay, we're going to work toward building a routine, which means that you start to get used to saying a lot of the same things over and over. Okay, so when you meet someone for the first time, right, you don't have to. It's planned. It's almost canned. It's rehearsed. It's memorized to a point. You know, and I'm going to help you. We're going to do specific training on building a routine. Now, the one possible objection to building a routine would be, well, what am I going to try to memorize? Like, I don't want to have to memorize. I can't memorize everything I'll ever want to say. I need to be fluent in the language. I need to be able to be spontaneous and think on my feet and say new things. And yes, that is 100% correct. Almost paradoxically, building a routine is one of the fastest ways. It's maybe the fastest way toward being spontaneous in the language. And it's paradoxical because you're thinking, well, how am I spontaneous if I'm memorizing? But it's one of the fastest ways to spontaneous. One of the ways to think of that is like this. Pretend you're planting seeds. Think of the routine as planting full-size trees, living, not plastic, living full-size trees that are ready to go, ready to decorate the landscape right away, ready to show off. But at the same time, those full-grown trees are going to take root. They're going to bear seeds, and the seeds are going to blow out and make new, starting with the routine in mind helps you get into conversation with real people. It lets you begin using the language right away. But then it also it takes root in your mind, and pretty soon you become spontaneous because the material, the words and the phrases, and the patterns, the structure, the seeds, the verbs, the grammar of your prepared routine starts to run into the new things you want to say. The grammar will be there for you, and the vocab will be there for you. So we're gonna shortcut to spontaneous, to conversational, and a big part of that is by actually building your routine. So we'll see more of that too. Finally, when you become a snowball, that's when you get to the point where conversation becomes more natural, and you can understand when other people speak to you. Right, because you've been practicing, you've been writing, practicing, texting, messaging, speaking, going to meetups, having online calls, and so on and so forth, really using the language. And you get to this point where it all starts to click, it starts to become automatic, you start to understand without realizing, and basically I call it a snowball because it's like you start rolling on your own. It's like you become big enough that you start rolling, and then pretty soon you're rolling down the hill like a snowball all on your own. Okay, so with no further ado, let's begin and just put all of these concepts to use.